It was reported that Canada Post rejected the 13% proposal increase on their salary and will go on strike tomorrow. Remember, they're a crown corporation. They're not a government entity. A crown corporation is supposed to be a corporation that is owned by the government, but that is ran like a private company. Yet they keep on having to give them money, just like they do with Via Rail. Since 2017, I think it was the number. So it looks like all our institutions in Canada are failing, and if it wasn't for taxpayers' money, they wouldn't exist. Like, it's literally, we are the ones keeping those guys afloat, and they keep on asking for more money. Here's a video from CP24. Listen to this.
Yeah, are you feeling it? A sense of deja vu? We experienced the 32-day strike during the holiday season. That came to an end in December. But the latest, I'm told, from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers is that Canada Post put a pause on negotiations, but they did say they will come back to the bargaining table. Meanwhile, Canada Post has received a strike notice from the union, which represents 55,000 postal workers. Operations are set to shut down by the end of this week. So employees plan to hit the picket lines on Friday morning at midnight. Here's more from the president of Toronto Local Canadian Union of Postal Workers.
We need a collective agreement. We got to keep the postal system going. Canada Post has sent emails. Banks have been sending emails saying there are possible labor disruption. Canada Post is its own business. It's mismanaged Canada Post for the last couple of years and has billions in losses that they claim, but they've caused these losses. We're the middle class. We want to be able to feed our families, to pay our rent, and we want stable jobs, good jobs for future Canadians, the future young Canadians.
Okay, we know millions of people are affected by this. Coast to coast, roughly 2 billion letters, 300 million parcels are delivered across Canada. The president and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business did say that the last strike cost small business owners $1 billion. Now, in the meantime, no new items are going to be accepted into Canada Post. They will be secured, some of the items that they have, but just not delivered. There are two exceptions to this, though: social assistant checks and live animals. Canada Post says if this disruption happens, it would make their financial situation even worse than it already is. Back in 2023, it had an $845 million operating loss. Now, on Friday, there was a report that
more than $800 million operation lost.
Well,
and they still want to go on strike. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah. It's this is just being pigs feeding greedy at the trough. There's no need for it. The only reason they do it is because they know that they'll probably get it, because there's no way any business, any private business would ever be able to agree to those terms when they're showing that kind of a loss, because clearly the business model is not sustainable, but they know that they've got the government of Canada backing them, and someone just needs to say no and can them. Like, we're not talking about nuclear physicists here. We're talking about mail carriers. Literally anybody can do it. Walking around, all you have to do is be able to lift 10 kilograms. It's not a difficult job description. You're not in a position to be demanding, 30 to 40% above the median income. You're just not. You're a mail carrier.
And this is what's funny, right? They're saying that it has such a big damage on their business, that it costs $1 billion to small businesses, that it's going to cost them a ton of money. Yet, if you read right here, Canada Post and its new offer include a wage increase of 6% in year 1 for current employees, 3% in year 2, and 2% in year 3 and year 4, respectively, or 13.59% compounded interest. The offer also provides employees with better income replacement for leave under the short-term disability program and 6 added personal days locked into the collective agreement. So once again, 13% increase over the next 4 years, more sick days off, and more short-term disability, because God knows that walking all those very heavy letters will cause a lot of short-term disability. Like, are you kidding me here?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?
Well, and like I said, they ask because they know they're going to get it. They just need to say, no, get f***ed. We'll hire new people. We'll hire new people to walk around the neighborhood. I guarantee you, it will not be hard to find people to do those jobs for the wages that they're already being paid.
No, 100%. And I spend a lot of my time in the US, and you should see the USPS over there, like the United States Postal Service,
Yep.
10 times better than ours. They work on Saturday, they work on Sundays. The service is so much better in the US. But here is what I found to be extremely, extremely interesting, because if you hear some of the people at Canada Post, they're denying the fact that they're losing a ton of money, like a ton. They're bleeding money. And it's saying that it's in most recent financial report, Canada Post recorded a loss before tax of $748 million, a 26% increase from the $548 million lost in 2022. So they are literally 1.4 almost billion dollars in the hole from 2022 and 2023 alone. That's not the report from last year, because it's probably even worse. And those finances have been a key point the corporation has made throughout negotiation, with the company noting in its press release about receiving the strike notice that it has recorded more than $3 billion
Wow.
in losses before tax since 2018, and expect another significant loss in 2024. $748 million in 2023, which is 26% more than 548. Quick math, 25% a quarter, you're looking at about 160 million more. So you're probably looking at more than $900 million loss if they continue on the same track. But please give them 13.4% increase on top of more sick days, on top of better disability. Like, how the is disability such a problem? That's part of your new offer. It has to be a problem. People have to be complaining if that's even brought up. Like,
yeah,
what is going on here?
Yeah. It's just greed all around. And
Yep.
they should say no to it. They should say no. And if they won't come back to work, fire them. I don't know what the rules are, but fire them, get new people in, and train them.
Like we were saying before, like, you can argue until you're blue in the face if do we need them or do we don't need them. Let's cite that for the time being, and let's just ask a simple question. Can we look at how much it would cost for the private sector to do it? Can we have an open discussion as to how much does it actually cost the private sector to do it? Compare it to what we're seeing from Canada Post, and let's figure out what the is the problem. But let's be honest for a second. When is the last time you heard a government department or a government as a whole doing a better job at managing money than a private company? This much.
Well,
that's how many times.
Why not?
Never happens.
They don't have private companies have to be disciplined or they will go under. Well, a crown corporation can't go under, and so there's no need for it to be disciplined. And once there's a famous saying, I think it might be Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's investment partner. Or show me the incentives and I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's no incentive for crown corporations to be disciplined with their money the way that there are strong incentives for a private company to do so. And that's why it doesn't work.
And I can confirm that myself, because as a sales engineer, I used to sell services to provincial government, federal governments, and municipal government. And do you know how many times I've had the head of departments tell us, come back in about February at the end of our fiscal year. We'll probably have some money to spend that's going to be left over from our budget. And if we don't spend it, that means that next year's budget is going to be cut off. We're gonna have a decrease in our budget.
Yeah, so
this is what happens when,
but
it's not your money.
Yeah,
the government doesn't generate money. They tax people. The postal worker wouldn't need a raise if the government wasn't taking 53% of the income in taxes. And this is exactly my point. But you see the irony here? The more money they want, the more people are taxed because we need to pay for their salaries. So instead of having a more efficient business model, we just are going to tax us more for a service I'm not even sure we still need.